Anton Andreacchio. Thanks for coming into the studios.
It's my pleasure.
So, I was just saying I didn't complete it, and you're an entrepreneur, as I mentioned that with Giuseppe Torriello, and also a director on at least two that I can think of, arts boards in South Australia. Maybe it's more. You can bring me up to date on that.
Currently 3, about to be 2.
3, about to be 2. That's probably a good move. And also, well, it's the last time we chatted, I recall you were about to start, or just started a master's in maths or something to do with maths. Is that right?
That would be right.
What was that? What are you doing?
Well, I'm currently doing a PhD in applied mathematics. So the short story is there are 4 hats. I have my businesses.
Yes.
I have the director roles, the governance roles. I have my research life, where I work at the University of Adelaide, and I'm a PhD candidate. And I'm also a new father. So that's my, that's my 4th role, which has changed since we last caught up.
Oh, that's a big one, and they're very important.
The most important, right?
Well, in fact, last night I was watching a bit of a program. I usually don't watch much on the ABC. It's talking about parenting, a lifetime role. Okay. Well, let's start from this one. How long is the fathering?
She's 9 months old, Sofia. She's beautiful. She's the best. She has a big head of hair.
Okay.
It's an absolute experience. It's a real adventure. Really enjoying it.
Oh, beautiful. Well, congratulations again for Sofia. It's the first child. Cool. Good. So let's go back to the applied maths. You said research. What sort of applied maths?
No one wants to talk about my math work. I mean, this is great. I'm excited.
No, I like it.
I a very long time ago. So I grew up around music. I was always very interested in music, but I was interested in the logic behind music, particularly the music theory. People know a little bit about. There's ideas there when you're learning music that things aren't random. There's order in there. And many years ago, I became very interested in this, not in the music world, but in the world of language. So rather than notes being logically related, how are words logically related together? And this has become very popular in the past few years to talk about with things like artificial intelligence, which is language models, the ChatGPT type world. But I was coming at it from a different approach. It wasn't how to generate stories, it was how to understand stories. And so I did a master's where a significant component was looking to understand the structure of stories using mathematics, which sounds nice and abstract, but it's great fun. It's bordering this world between art, history, philosophy and motive thought, and mathematics. So it's good fun.
So again, you're trying to understand the logic of stories?
Logic of stories.
Through maths?
Through mathematics.
How are you doing that, or how are you thinking you're going to do that? What stage are you at? Have you gone beyond the research proposal?
Oh yes,
Yes.
We're deep in all sorts of different areas.
Okay.
So the stories have structure.
Uh-huh.
There is a beginning, there is a middle, and there is an end.
Okay.
And in different stories have different shapes. Well, this is how some writers think about stories. Not all. It's very much a loose science. It's more of an art than a science, believe it or not. But stories have shapes, and understanding what those shapes look like conceptually is a big part of how people develop stories. From the math perspective, there's this whole branch around something called natural language processing. How do we understand each word as a data point, and the relationship of words to other words, and how do we actually extract meaning out of this through these mathematical models? And I can see your face. It's
lots of fascinating questions coming up.
Yes, but I mean, there were some researchers who got this the fiction, the entire history of the fiction collection in English, the Gutenberg fiction collection, and they actually mapped using this thing called sentiment. So is it a positive word or a negative word? You can look at the shapes of these stories as they accumulate as the story goes on. And they managed to distill it down to 6 fundamental shapes. Up, down, and down, and all of these different kind of ways of visualizing the stories. And I was very interested in this, and then went, okay, there's some weaknesses when I tested this out with some writers in the film world. But then it's opened up all sorts of new areas of research around how do you understand what's random and what's a signal, what's a creative intent, and then what's a feature of our language. All those different things. Yeah, I'm talking more about the concept than the mathematics, but that's because the mathematics is still underway. So.
Okay, and you just mentioned film writing. Is that what you're looking at now? Or?
Currently looking at a series of comparisons. So how do I compare Shakespeare plays with modern plays?
Okay.
And how do I compare different works of fiction? And then how do you compare a human writing with a computer writing something that's appearing to be similar? And how are they different? Because it's so easy to generate stuff now online. The difference is what's interesting.
So I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting because I was having a conversation with Teresa La Rocca last year. She was organising an event around Puccini. We talked about artificial intelligence. So wouldn't it be interesting to see how people react to something he wrote versus something ChatGPT, say, wrote along similar...
I mean, ChatGPT is a mathematical model.
Yes.
And it is very confronting. It shouldn't work. It really shouldn't work, but it does work. Somehow you're able to get some incredible insights from this world, this brand new world with this technology coming along. And it's causing a lot of angst in many parts of life, particularly with artists and what does it mean to be creative. So I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying being at university, where I can be surrounded by people who are far smarter than me, and be the idiot and just learn. So it's, maybe I'm a romantic, but I enjoy that.
Yeah, no, the mental stimulation is very interesting, very important. Okay, so now let's go back to the entrepreneurial version, and we might think about some connections between the research and entrepreneurship. Anyway, so last time we chatted, you had more than one business, but I can remember Convergen, where you were making more than, I'm about to say 3D representations of places and events, but it's probably more than just 3D representations. What's happening there?
So, Convergen is the main company.
Yep.
It does digital services, particularly in infrastructure. So what does this look like? It's everything from the fly-throughs you might see on TV when the building's not yet built, but it's been proposed. It may be all sorts of media that we produce. It could be working in post-production in the film industry. But essentially what we do is we provide a series of services. Just got nothing there. We'll keep going. But in this intersection of creative industries and other industries. So we see all these filmmakers, they make films, it's wonderful, fantastic. Essentially we've got filmmakers and visual effects artists and all these technical people working in mining and infrastructure and green energy and even football, believe it or not, because we produce a lot of content in virtual reality to do things like train the AFL umpires. There's a whole range of different ways this idea of creative industries in other industries manifests, which has resulted in these different companies forming. So it's been we didn't realize this was going to happen. We didn't think it would. We didn't have a great idea and raise money for it and go and do it that way. We actually just helped and then found that where we could bring value, we could continue bringing value, and the company's organically grown from there. So very exciting time for us. It's we do about 150 projects a year. We have a Sydney Opera House show coming up in 2 weeks, and yeah, we're having fun.
Okay, interesting. So using images, moving images as a language. I was just thinking how that's another form of language, right? Different from words.
It's a visual language, yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Look, I'm fascinated by it because we're such a screen culture nowadays.
Yes.
And when you think about infrastructure development, typically people think, okay, you get an architect to design it, or a planner to plan it, an architect to design it, a builder to build it, and it's a very specific order. But what we find is that's not really how it works. It starts with a concept, it starts with an idea. So for instance, many years ago there was talking about a contemporary gallery on North Terrace. They started with a design competition, but the images they created captured people's attention. And similarly with any innovation precinct or a wind farm or a hydrogen hub or a new hospital, it starts with the idea, and then there's all of these interfaces where visual language is needed to engage with everyone from politicians to stakeholders to the architects. And I'm not saying that the design process is different, but it's just there's this whole world of engaging about a vision for the future. And it's really exciting because it takes us to all different parts of Australia and all different walks of life to try to engage with what is that vision for the future and how do you help communicate the complexity behind that vision as well. It's not just what it looks like, but how it works and why it's needed and why it's important. Sorry, I'm getting all red stuff. It's Friday afternoon.
No, that's cool.
Excited about this work.
And just that you mentioned, I think in passing, but you mentioned something about we have a show at the Sydney Opera House.
No, I just dropped that in there. So we work with infrastructure, but one of the things we were really interested in many moons ago was this virtual reality technology. But the problem with the technology is no one really understood the visual language of it. It was cool tech, but what's the visual language? And we had this bright idea of working with artists. It wasn't really our idea, we just kind of asked, can we help? And that led to some collaborations, and that's led to more collaborations. And there's one collaboration that's been 8 years in the making with the Australian String Quartet
cool.
and William Barton. In particular, the viola player Stephen King, who was the former viola player of the String Quartet. We've helped them create a projection show at the Sydney Opera House in this special room that they've built, all around this work called Square Circles. So it's this Indigenous music, First Nations music and the String Quartet, but more than that, it's this relationship between Will and Stephen and the quartet, which we've created essentially a visualization of this incredible work of music. So it's launching on the 19th of March. Very excited.
Oh, cool. That's soon. Just was less than a month, about 3.5 weeks away.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
we're bouncing around all sorts of things. I love this. This is great.
So you're combining your visual language with music and song?
Yes. Well, it starts with the music.
So
essentially we go, Will and Stephen, if we extended your artistic practice into this world, what do you see? What's your visualization? And particularly with Will, and because he composed the work as well, the dreaming process of it, there's this relationship between the visual world and the musical world as it's composed. It's our job to go, well, how do we be an extension of what you're trying to achieve here? So it's been iteratively developed over many, many years, and it's evolved to this point. So it's this accompaniment. Often people start with the images and they compose to it. No, we started with music and then we created this work from it. So it's already toured several places. It's been around the world, to Taiwan, South by Southwest in Sydney, but this is a special projection-based one, which just for the Sydney Opera House. Outstanding
to be at the Sydney Opera House. You just reminded me, I keep on meaning to reach out to Dylan Crismani at the University of Adelaide to come onto the program. Crismani is a very Italian name, but he's an expert in Aboriginal music. So,
wonderful.
Identifies as Indigenous himself.
Great.
Cool. So anyway, we will have to get him on. And you mentioned the Australian String Quartet, and the CEO of that is a lady called Angelina Zucco. There's a lot of interesting Italianness, especially in the arts field, but not only in South Australia.
Particularly in the classical music world in South Australia. Vince Ciccarello?
Yes, Vince Ciccarello, and that sort of helps me segue onto your arts directorships and where you are going with that at the moment. So you mentioned 3, possibly 2.
Yes.
Directorships. I know of the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra and another one that's escaping me right now.
Sure.
But I'm not remembering the 2. I'm not remembering right now.
Well, I'll give the dimensions. The one that I'm departing
is the cinema one.
Is a fabulous gallery in the Lion Arts Precinct called Adelaide Contemporary Experimental.
Okay.
It's a very important gallery for South Australia. Essentially, there's a rich history of experimental and contemporary art here, and several organisations some years ago combined to create this gallery. And they do incredible work. They've got a wonderful show on at the moment as part of the Adelaide Festival, but they also have artist studios and a Porter Street Commission. They have, every year they commission specific experimental artworks. It's very, very forward-facing, it's very agile, and I've been really proud to be associated with.
That's the one I didn't know of. The other one I think is the film festival.
Yes. So I'm leading that because my term is up, but I'm still very passionate about it. I'm still a sponsor, and the relationship will evolve. Then there's the Adelaide Symphony. I love the symphony. We first worked together, I think it was 2014, when we did the first symphony orchestra concert in virtual reality in the world. I'll leave that my life. But since then, the relationship's evolved. I'm on the board there, very passionate about it, very excited about where it's going. We have a concertmaster, Kate Sellers. We have a CEO. I keep saying she's not that new. It's just I feel like it's new because I've been involved with it for so long. But Colin is the current CEO. He's doing a fabulous job. The program is off in full swing. It's going great. It's exciting times ahead with the symphony. But I also chair the Adelaide Film Festival. Have for 5 years now. I've been on the board for a few years more than that, but I've been really passionate about this organisation. It's a government organisation. The government of South Australia owns it, and we've been proudly growing every year. Audiences are growing. It's in October every year. Last year was absolutely fantastic. A lot of local first-time directors and continuing directors. And one project in particular, who had its premiere in October last year, Lesbian Space Princess, has just been to Berlin and won a big award there at the Berlin Film Festival. So we're seeing these local projects launch here and go around the world. So it's wonderful.
Lesbian
Space Princess.
Space Princess. Okay, what's that?
It's an animated film by Lila Varghese and Emma Hobbs, two young directors here. It's a comedy. It's produced by Tom Phillips, and we made a thing, and it was part of an initiative called Film Lab that is run by the Film Festival. South Australian Film Corporation actually takes the lead on this, and the Mercury organisation. And it gives young filmmakers the chance to make their first film. Making your first film is the hardest transformation because a short film is one thing, but a feature film, it's your first. People have to back you because there's no precedent. And they get, I think I won't say the exact number, but they get a grant from these organisations. Film Festival actually does invest directly into it. And they spent a year making this film. And it was ambitious, and it was kooky, and it was wild, and it's fun. And they've just had their big world premiere in Berlin at the Berlin Film Festival, the Berlinale. And rave reviews. It's one of these ones which, like, it's taking the world by storm, and it's taking South Australia by storm, but we're very early in this yet, so we're still starting to permeate out. So it's very exciting to see where that project's going to turn out. But it's not the only project. There's a whole range. I think there were 7, 8 Australian films in the last program. I'm going to be corrected on that, but Adelaide Film Festival, over 100 films in October from all around the world, the best in contemporary cinema and the best from South Australia on that interface too. So it's wonderful.
Wow, okay, interesting, very exciting. Now, did I might be getting confused with what Giuseppe was saying. Did I hear you mention the Fringe somewhere along the way? No, Fringe? No, so no
We
project?
love the Fringe.
Love the Fringe. Are you going? Have you been to any events?
I've been to 2 events with the festival, not the Fringe just yet. See, I have this other thing happening, which is the baby at home.
Yes.
But we're going to get to a few things. That's what I love about the Fringe. You can go spontaneously. There's always something to see. It's an exciting time.
Yes, fascinating. Well, another person I met yesterday, and he was an ex-colleague of my wife's, and he's more than 100% taken up by the merger between the 2 universities. So meetings all day long and events in the evenings. And this event yesterday evening at least was a pleasant one, and it helped, person's life. Cool. Well, as I said, I haven't been to any Fringe events, and it's not looking like I will go to, or maybe the next couple of weeks. But nice to see what the Australian String Quartet is doing with Aboriginal art. An important part of yesterday's concert was the presentation and performance of work.
Yeah,
But I think they might have taken some work to overseas. They were in Italy last year. They tend to go to Europe every year, which is good.
Yeah. Look, their Quartet and Country project it was really pioneering. So it's a really interesting concept. It's what is the role of this very Western European quartet, I guess this culture of classical music and quartet. What does that mean in this modern world? What is a modern chamber organisation? And what does it mean in Australia when you have this incredible array, this pluralism of artistic creation? And so the Quartet and Country program features several collaborations, and they've all found their way in different ways, shapes and forms, and last night was an absolute triumph. It was spectacular. It's wonderful to be there to see it, so really enjoyed it.
Well, okay, well, I'll say thank you.
I'm not on the board of the ASQ, I just love it.
Yes, no, it's a beautiful organisation. and we try to get to at least a couple of their concerts every year. Well, I say thank you to Anton Andreacchio for having come into the radio studio again, and we've got, fingers crossed, Senator Jacobi on in a couple of minutes. And it's nice to see very interesting work happening in the arts sector in South Australia, and I'm very impressed that you can do all those things as well as the PhD, especially looking after the child, the newborn baby.
And I still find time to come here.
Yes.
No, it's great. It's a lot of support. The partner's wonderful. Work with my brother, he's wonderful. It's a team effort.
Good, excellent. Okay, so now some messages from our sponsors, maybe some music, and then Francesco Giacobbe.